One of our partners used a quiz specifically for SEO so that she could increase the page view time. So the amount of time somebody was spending on a page ultimately impacts your SEO. And so her goal of using a quiz wasn't really email lead generation. I mean, yeah, that was great, but she really wanted to increase page view time.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to Interact's Grow Podcast. So great to be with you all. I'm your host, Jasmine Solana, and all of us are here today. Jackie, Jesse, Damaris. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year.
Ooh, this is our first recording of the year. So, starting fresh, doing new things, but also not so new, I guess you could say. And I guess a real quick recap on since we started doing Grow episodes, we talked a lot about business strategy in the last year. We talked a lot about, AI, especially Interact AI and the evolution of that. We talked a lot about quiz strategy, how to really get your quizzes up and running. So I guess before we start with our topic for the day, I want to throw this out there of any topics that people want to hear us talk about. I think we still want to continue on with the same idea of, helping you guys scale your business. But what do you guys want to hear about? What do you want us to talk about and discuss? We'd love to know. But for today, we decided to go with landing pages and how to use them for your business, specifically 3 ways to use marketing landing pages for your quiz.
Love it.
Let's get going. All right. So I guess first and foremost, in terms of using marketing landing pages for your quiz, there are 3 big areas that we've seen people use them and we recommend using them. One being, to use it with what's already existing, which goes on with everything else for your quiz as well. 2, to promote your quiz on a landing page, and we'll talk about why. And then 3, to add your quiz results to landing pages and redirect to those landing pages instead of using the Interact platform's result pages. Who wants to get started?
Throw one out there. I guess we'll get started with the first one.
We should emphasize that we just came back after a 10-day holiday break, so all of us are just still slowly waking up and rolling back into it. I forgot what quizzes were for a second. Now I'm here. I'm fine. So if anyone's feeling the same way, we're right there with you. But we'll get through this together.
Love it.
Yes.
To start off with sort of the first way to use your landing pages for your quiz is what's already existing, right? So I would say the first thing to think about is, what are you already marketing? What are you already doing in your business? Is it webinars, live webinars? I know we talked a little bit about that at the end of last year. Is it to a course that you have? Is it to specific products? Is it to a new launch? What are you already marketing? What's already a sales page? And then how can you take your quiz and fit it into that to funnel people into what you're already selling and where you want them to end up leading up? I feel a big question for me in the past, that I've gotten, I should say, clarify, is that, if I'm creating a quiz, do I need to create completely new material for this? And we've always said, no, you don't need to create new content. Use what you already have. And that also fits into all that extra stuff, your product pages, your, sign up pages, newsletter pages, all that stuff. The idea is to fit your quiz into what you already have.
Yeah, I think if you're not doing that, then your quiz is not really aligned with your business. All of the web pages or landing pages or sites that you have out there, products, whatever, have to do with one topic or a general, not general, but it has to do with something, your business. So if you're making something where a quiz doesn't fit into those pages to promote it or to even use within Interact AI to make the quiz, then who are you really talking to? That would be my question, if that's what someone's thinking of, oh, maybe I should make new content to create a quiz. Why? Who are you trying to reach?
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that distinction.
I totally agree that essentially if you think back about landing pages, they're supposed to be like clear, somewhat concise, very clear CTAs though.
Mhm.
You don't want it to be all over the place and confusing. And if you feel like placing your quiz on there feels off or makes things confusing, then you got to go back and rework that because something's not right. It should fit in seamlessly and look like it's meant to be there.
I agree. I've seen a lot of people that already have an established like website or some form of offering, and they'll use their quiz maybe like as a pop-up that comes up on their website to answer a question for people, or if they have like if they created a landing page that has like information resources or something like that, they can pop in the URL as well for the quiz. So it's just really like what Jasmine was saying, like just getting creative with what you already have, and this is just really a feature to add on to the many things that you're already doing. So just to throw some ideas out there for you guys.
Right.
A
Like, how
quiz is
can
a
you
great way to
accelerate? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say a quiz is a great way to make your landing page a more interactive experience for customers instead of just keeping it basic. It adds some fun element to it.
One of our partners used a quiz specifically for SEO so that she could increase the page view time. So the amount of time somebody was spending on a page ultimately impacts your SEO. And so her goal of using a quiz wasn't really email lead generation. I mean, yeah, that was great, but she really wanted to increase page view time. And so on her existing pages, blogs, things like that, because the quiz related to her entire business, she could put it anywhere. And I forget the total increase, but it went up quite a bit. I think like over 30 seconds, just because people were spending more time on those same pages, but answering the questions to actually see their quiz result.
Yeah, that's a really good segue into kind of why we're, you want to put your quizzes on landing pages so they actually do not index into Google. Like the content on your quiz through Interact does not index into Google, but when you put it on a landing page with all of the keywords, whether it's the cover page, where the cover page, like the actual quiz is, or the results pages, those are what gets indexed into Google for SEO. And then I think that's a great point, Jackie, of like the quiz is a great tool to keep people on there longer.
Or just to spice it up, move people to the next page, keep them on your pages. So they've just answered your quiz questions, right? Or these things about them. Now send them from the quiz result to different landing pages, or in your email sequences, send them to different pages if that's your goal of getting people to see this specific content or pages that you have out there, sites that you have. Like, for example, Mediavine, right? So a lot of Mediavine publishers have ads on their different pages that they're getting paid for the more people see them. So if you're using a quiz to give the right pages in front of the right people, you're going to increase your revenue from Mediavine because you're putting more people on those pages. You're giving it more views.
Let's back up a little bit into putting the quiz on a landing page, like the actual cover take quiz page. What are ways that you guys have seen people use that landing page to kind of give more information without making it too overwhelming and encouraging people to still take the quiz?
Well, just for the support side, customer support side, I have seen a handful of our clients want to use like UTM parameters or some form of tracking system in their quiz URL, and without embedding it into your own landing page, you're not really able to do that. So a lot of the times we recommend this exact thing, what we're talking about today, like embedded into your own landing page. That way you are able to add these tracking devices or tracking systems, into the quiz, and you can learn, evidently a whole variety of things, how long people are taking in your quiz, what they're answering, the traction you get it, where they're coming from, things of that nature. And so that's become more popular, I think, over like the second half of the year. Maybe it'll continue to be this year, but that's something that I've noticed on my side of things.
I think when it comes to like the content on a landing page with a quiz on it, there are so many different things you can do. You can do I've seen a lot just where they kind of, give you hints about what the quiz is about. Like, maybe they give you a preview to what results you can get and kind of make it like a journey or like a discovery that involves the quiz. And that's the main thing it's about. If your landing page, if you have like a sales page, maybe taking the quiz, the solution to finding out which, product or offer is going to be right for these people. So I think you can go a lot of different routes with it.
Jesse, you just reminded me, I see this a lot and I wish more people would do this. When you get on a website, so many sites have like a start here button or like learn more or whatever. That could be your quiz. That would be a really great place to put your quiz because it's where you want someone to get started so you can learn more about them to give them what they actually need. And then aside from that, I would just add pop-ups and announcement bars are great ways to sort of grab attention to that as well, to your quiz.
A lot of people, even on Instagram and everything, your link bio usually have a landing page where you're like, I want people to click on this one. Like, this is the one I want them to go to. Add your quiz there. Collect those leads and start from there. See what happens when you add it there.
What I'm hearing is to like really think about what you want your customer journey to be. So as soon as they get to your website, where do you want them to go? And how do you use a quiz to get them there? But in order for them to take the quiz, you need to have really clear sort of incentives to, have them spend that time, right? Like they're spending time actually creating or taking a quiz. So how do you get that there? And then to Damaris's point is like making sure that you're able to get those analytics of, okay, well, if I do embed it into this landing page, how many people are actually visiting the page versus how many people are taking the quiz? If they're sharing it, where are they sharing it? And so on. Love that. So from your actual embedded quiz, right? You take your quiz, you have a few questions that people answer, and generally they get a result. So we mentioned this as the third way to kind of use a quiz or use a marketing landing page for your quiz is to actually create your result on landing pages. And then we have a really cool feature where you, instead of them seeing the result through the quiz, they get redirected to a URL on your website with all that same information that you would put otherwise. Damaris, can you jump into that? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love when people redirect their results. I know it takes a little bit more work, but you can do so many more creative things with it once you redirect. You can urge people to retake the quiz. You can send them to more resources below, embed videos. I mean, you can embed videos in the actual quiz result, but just for like functionality and for the way it looks, like people are still on your website, I highly encourage it. I think it's like one of a must kind of do things. And I know Jackie or Damaris, one of I know Jackie talked about it all the time in our community about all the pros of what actually happens when you have your results on a landing page versus in the Interact Quiz Builder.
Yeah, I would say the number one, and Damaris, then we can pass it to you because I know you get asked this and help all of the time, is how do you put pixels into your quiz? And with data and privacy changes, the feature that we had within the Interact within your Interact account doesn't work like it was intended to because of those updates. And so rerouting to your own URLs, so your results are housed on your own URLs, is the best way to do that. So you can not only see how many people are coming from the quiz, but what do they do after? So once you know they've come in from your quiz, you can keep tracking them past that result page. Have they purchased from you? Have they not, etc.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people use both of these things, the embedding on their own website, right? The quiz on their own website, and then they continue that on to redirecting their own results into their own landing pages. Obviously the tracking and the pixels are a big part of it, but also like for e-commerce businesses, I see a lot where they want to offer more than one collection or offer more than one product. And it becomes more difficult when you're just using the Interact tool because, it's a little more complex when you have an e-commerce business. You have to add more products and things of that nature. So it looks very like it's a very flawless sort of look aesthetically when they do it that way. That becomes it's become very popular actually over the last year. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys. Let me.
While she's doing that, Well, Damaris, the
Yeah.
other thing I really like about those e-commerce sites when they redirect is you can go right to the checkout page. So you can have the cart
Mhm.
checkout like right there. So you don't lose people in trying to purchase. And that's usually best for e-commerce because it's like people are looking for a product and then the quiz recommends the right product for them. So they're ready to buy it. They don't really need a long email sequence. Maybe they do, but then you can put an email sequence together.
Mhm.
But at least they have the option of right away being able to purchase without getting lost.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's also
And yeah.
I was gonna say, I think it's also interesting, like if you get to track all this information based on like your results or like, your personas, you can see how like what their behavior is. Like, are these people
Mhm.
ready to buy right now? Do these people need more nurturing? Are these people
Mhm.
visiting my blog or are these people going straight to my product? So it's kind of just cool to see, I think, how that behavior works.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that I've actually noticed it's very interesting because almost like it's like you're working backwards. A lot of people already have like landing pages of like products or things or resources that they are already offering customers. So a lot of the times you can just use those exact same resources or landing pages and just make those your results, but just maybe change the wording a little bit or the name of whatever result you're wanting to send them to. But it's really working more smart in a way because you already have that information. You just have to use it to your benefit, which is what we've been talking about this whole time.
Right, like adjust it
And-
just a little bit to fit your quiz in there.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people get really confused and, oh my God, how much information do I have to add in my result pages? Or how much information, or what's the right amount of information, or things of that nature. And it's really just you already have all of that information. So there's really no right or wrong response to that. So I think that sort of minimizes the overwhelm a little bit.
The other
Right.
thing that used to come up in coaching all the time with wanting to create the URLs for your result pages is so that you can email the results later. So in an Interact quiz, if you're using within your dashboard those results, when you refresh the page, or you can't link, I guess what I'm saying is you can't link out to an Interact quiz result page. It just links to the main quiz. So every time you would want someone to see that page, they'd have to retake the quiz. Nobody's going to want to do that. If the result page is on your own URL, then you can just link that in the email that you're sending them so they can refer back to it anytime or have it or use that and turn it into an email, whatever you want to do. But that was another big request is we don't want to show the result right away after someone takes the quiz. We want to give the result in an email, or we want to be able to show people, we want people to be able to come back to the result for the resources or whatever. And that's really the best way to do it is with the redirect and putting the URL in the email.
Right. That's a good segue into thinking about this from our customers' perspective. When you as the entrepreneur are thinking of like, what kind of a experience do I want my customer to have when they take my quiz, when they, get through all the questions and get to the results pages, like what will get them to, one, stay on my website longer, two, re-engage with me again in the future. And that is to like make this as white labeled as possible and keeping them on your website as much as possible. So making sure that your quiz is always leading back to your website. So if you're using those landing pages to redirect for your results, I love that idea of like sending a link back to it in the email. You could always also like relink it again, probably later in that email sequence, or encourage people to bookmark that page. One of the other things that I wanted to mention, I think Jesse kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, was if you're specifically coaches or consultants, you can embed, let's say, like a calendar, like to book appointments with you right on that landing page. So there's just like more flexibility, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, in terms of like what you, not just content, but what you can actually put in those landing pages for your results.
Yeah. I was gonna say for those that have listened for a while, because I know I love candles. It's sort of a known thing now,
Are we
apparently.
going back to candles?
Well,
Yes.
the reason I brought it up was because obviously there's a certain scent that I mainly like, right? And so like if I'm already a customer of this product and you're sending me emails of like, hey, it's going to go on sale, or there's a new smell that's going to, like they had this, no, I'm saying too much. Now they had like this mahogany apple that was like scented. And I was like, oh, like I kind of want to try that to see how that will be different, like a different scent from what I'm usually used to, but it's like almost the same. It's just things like that, right? It's like people already are hooked, or they already like you for whatever reason, for whether it's a product, a service, whatever you're offering them. When you do things like that, when you're sending them emails, or you're, allowing them to sort of be part of like, oh, we're launching this new thing, it just becomes, you become more of like part of that community in a way. And then you become really more hooked, because obviously I keep buying these darn candles. So here I am still talking about them 6 months later. Learn from me, everybody.
It's true though. Like, I mean, unfortunately, if I'm already a customer, it's not like they're necessarily marketing their quiz to me because they need my information. But if I'm like a loyal customer for a product and they come out with a quiz, I'm like, I'm taking it because I'm curious. Like, it's funny. It's such a good way to like re-engage people as well. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Funny enough, guys, Starbucks, I'm also a Starbucks person. Just, they did this end of year, like, find out what like coffee persona you are, which reminded me of what we do. Cause I'm like, wait, they're doing a quiz? Like, what's happening? Of course, I had to go in and figure out which coffee persona I was, because there's no way I'm not gonna, figure that out. And I just thought it was interesting that they now incorporated quizzes into their marketing strategies. And I mean, obviously it worked, not only because I work in quizzes, but it was pretty spot on for me. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty much me, but it's my coffee personality. So Starbucks is getting it, guys. I'm just saying, quizzes work.
Right. I love that. I think too, like if you're thinking about, companies like Starbucks who are able to use a quiz for their business, like they have a whole team of people who's creating all this marketing, all these pages specifically for that quiz. And it's like, it does work. Like you said, Tamaris, like you wanted to take it, even though you've been drinking Starbucks probably for like how long, but, like to be able to do that, like you have to think of it of, if I'm taking this quiz and Starbucks is making this look like Starbucks, how can I use my quiz with, obviously not as many resources as Starbucks, but still make it look as white labeled as possible? And it is to like use your own landing pages. Like the quiz should fit into your business and sort of like accelerate your marketing, not just, oh, I have a fun quiz for people to take to engage them. Like I think it can do all of that while making it look like you created, like you have a whole team of people coding this entire quiz into your website.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I just want to maybe call out is if you're not doing all this embedding on the landing pages, you still want to make sure your brand is coming through your quiz. In coaching, I would see a lot of times people, like your quiz is a part of your business. It's not just like a quiz aside from your business with a different logo, different colors, different font. Like you should really use the same colors, the same font, the same imagery, the same like brand essence in your quiz, because it's a piece of your business. And everywhere it gets shown or marketed or shared, you want people to remember who your brand is. And if it's completely off, whether it's on a landing page or it's just your Intract link, right? Like you're sharing it right from your account, you still want it to feel like your brand. So make sure you're doing that regardless.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see it now. Obviously, I'm a consumer, but I also work, right, in quizzes. So it's interesting that going back to the Starbucks strategy that they used, it's really just to re-engage their current customers, right? It's really just to make them feel valued, make them feel like, okay, we see you, we hear you, this is who you are, this is what you've done in the company, this is like who we think you impersonate, but it works because you're hooked. You feel like, oh wow, they really put some thought into it, they really cared about all the money I'm spending here and every day that I go, or whatever the case is. So it's just, if for anything, it's a marketing strategy that really works very well. So
You know what that
You can
just made
also
me
make.
think of is like, the end of year Spotify Wrapped and how many people
Mm.
started doing that especially this last year. I feel like I got like a Wrapped on everything I use. We even got one
Yeah.
for Buzzsprout, which is the platform we use to broadcast our podcast. And I just had this thought as you were speaking, Damaris, of like personalizing, maybe making people feel engaged, of like when you're able to take your quiz and understand like all these analytics, and then it's like, okay, well, if I have all this information on these landing pages, one, I already know what result they got. And through these landing pages, you would know what are people clicking on, what content are they engaging with. So you could effectively do some sort of like, your business wrapped for your customers, understanding like, okay, this is what their result was. This is who this type of person is. And maybe you don't have as much data and as many numbers as Spotify does, but you are able to create sort of like a looking ahead, or here's what your year probably looked like based on that person's result and who that personality is. And kind of leading back to what I think is actually such a great idea, Jackie, of linking people to their results page. If your quiz is still live and running and you're using that same URL, it's like a perfect way to sort of reignite that conversation of like, here's what your year looked like, and just a reminder of who your personality is. And then maybe it's also a good way to be like, do you still feel like this is you? Take my quiz again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I love the scored quizzes. I mean, they don't even have to be a scored quiz, but where like the quiz is intentional that it wants you to retake it so you can sort of track your progress. Like, are you scoring a higher score? Did you learn more about this thing? Now that you've implemented some of this, where are you at now?
Yeah.
That's a really great way to engage your audience. Again, what's the goal? Is it for email generation? I mean, new leads, then that's probably not what you want to do. But if it's to re-engage, to make more sales, then that's a really great strategy.
Before we hop off, I really quickly wanted to touch on the tech side of it, and sort of, Damaris, if you could cover what's the most challenging part about redirecting your results or embedding your quiz into a landing page?
Wow, that's not an easy question to answer.
She's like, thanks a lot, Jasmine.
Thanks a lot, Jasmine.
Yes, I think the
Um,
hardest part is checking that box to redirect host on redirect. So many people miss that, and it
yeah,
doesn't work if you don't check that box. But it's
Mm.
literally as easy as checking a box.
I think
yeah, that's big.
that the hardest part is getting the landing page up and running if it's not already. If you're not adding it to an existing one, I think
Mhm.
Interact makes it pretty easy to embed and do all of that. But I think people are like, let me get the quiz and then I'll work on the landing page later. But I think that's usually.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on the tech side, that comes up a lot, what Jackie said, like making sure that you turn on the redirect host so that way it fits the container and it looks flawless on your actual landing page. Doesn't look like a little box that's just cut off, and the scroll bar is right in the middle of it. And a lot of the times, like making sure that goes down to aesthetics, your font, your colors really match the landing page, and they look just like your actual website looks like. That way it looks like it's part of your website, not just a sore thumb, right? So just things like that. I don't want to get into like the super techie stuff in the code because it's really not. I mean, you can always chat us in if you have any issues about that. So it's not something that's really, really difficult. It's just walking through the steps, and if you follow the instructions, I think you can get it done really flawlessly. But it's just really small oversight sometimes. And back to what Jesse's saying, it's a very easy process to just redirect. We just have to just be careful with how we're doing it. That's all.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, guys, thank you so much. And everyone out there listening, this is like something people have obviously been doing since we've, launched these features. And it's as long as I've been here, we've had like redirect and embedding and all that good stuff. But I do kind of hope to see it more this year, considering our Interact AI is up and running and people will
Mm.
get quizzes out faster. So that way, instead of spending so much time on the content, we can make it, look really nice, look really seamless and white labeled to our businesses. All right. Well, thanks, guys. And we'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Bye,
Happy New Year,
guys.
everybody.